Hello, everybody.
And hello from me as well.
All right, so welcome to the Mikestand. We're of course going to give everybody a chance to come in. Hopefully everybody's having a good weekend. So we'll of course be talking about a bunch of stuff tonight. Once everybody gets here, so I hope everybody's having a good time. If you haven't already, of course, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So with that, hey Rick, so how'd your day
Thanks.
go today?
Not too bad, not too bad. And I will hit the like and share it out after we're done because as you know, I was in here and then I got I went to go like and share and all that, and my
Mm-hmm.
computer just it doesn't
You're,
like doing
you're
much
so
more than I
weak that
wanted
you
it.
can't really do anything. Is that basically what it's come down to? You can't have more than
Yeah,
one screen up, basically. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
pain.
especially for stuff with doing with the net. Well, I'm not sure how much. I'm actually going to be going to Hamilton. Not this week, but next week on the 8th, and I may or may not bring my computer back. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be nice and let my cousin still use it for a bit or not. I'm not sure whether it's my laptop, my internet, or a combination of both. Because I got pathetic um,
Hmm.
uh, net and Uh, got a pathetic laptop.
Hmm.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So basically, we're just waiting for people to show up.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I,
maybe what we're waiting for people to show up, maybe for more people in the rewatch or go back and watch later. Maybe how did things go on Friday night for who was on with you Friday night for the
well, it was
retrospective?
Apex from Apex Comics was on with me. We actually went over comics that um that went on sale in February 1940 from Fiction House. So we read Jumbo Comics Volume 1, Issue 14, and then we read Fight, Jungle, and Planet Comics Volume 1, Issue 4, each of them. So from Jumbo Comics, we read um, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, and Stuart Taylor in Weird Stories of the Supernatural, and then read a story each from the other three. And there goes Rick again. We went through let's see, we went through the K.O. Kirby story from Jungle Comics. We went through Simba, the King of Beast from from and of course he's back. I just gotta click him on here. You're back. So
Yeah,
we went
yeah.
over Simba King of Beast in Jungle Comics, and then we went over Red Comet, one of the few superheroes in the Fiction House catalog um, from Planet Comics. So um, I think it was a nice, and of course, the artwork and the pictures in the Sheena story in particular were very good. It's like you almost wish you could have actually just walked right through the page into that world. I mean, you had at one point where where her male companion Bob was, as they called him, I think Buana Bob or whatever. He was talking to the pygmy chief, and Sheena's all laying right there, almost like in a way to where they just, hey, boys, why don't you come lay here beside me? So you had a case where they got in the Sheena story they got captured by a rival pygmy tribe, basically, or what they call the Pagonias, and then were
Huh.
rescued by a pack of gorillas. In the weird stories of the supernatural, you saw Stuart Taylor and his, and basically his future father-in-law, Dr. Hayward, getting captured by an evil scientist who was, setting off, you know, ah, Elk is here. Hey, Elk.
Hey, Elk.
Hello, is my audio working properly?
Now, as far as I know, as far as I
it is
know,
for me.
Terrific. Hope you all
Yeah,
had a good week.
I was going over some of what like Apex and I read on Friday with Sheena and Weird Stories of the Supernatural with Stuart Taylor. Um, we also, of course, did KO Kirby, where the boxer was asked to do a movie as a boxer, only for a rival actor to try to take him out. And then when found out, that actor got fired. And then, of course, in the Simba story, it's Simba saving some young cubs in the pack that he was in, and then Red Comet saved some space explorers who are trapped on a planet with living intelligent vegetables. So had quite an array of very different stories there.
Living intelligent vegetables. Was it Veggie Tales?
Nope, it wasn't Veggie Tales.
I know. Veggie Tales was not even thought of. I don't even think the guy that invented Veggie Tales was even born yet.
Most likely not. Yeah, I'd say so.
But, the joke had to have been said.
Well, I heard a lot of your reading. Apex, I think, gets an award for the best emoting of comic book sound effects ever on your Friday afternoon reads or Friday evening reads, I think.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Yeah, he did, and it was good considering the previous 2 weeks I've been doing basically all the voices because Tim him comes out for commentary, which is fine. I give people the option if they want to or not. So for 2 weeks I was doing all the voices to the best of my ability. So yeah, but there was a lot of good artwork in the book. The stories were pretty good too. Pretty engaging. So yeah. So anyways, well, why don't we do this? Now we got a few more people in here. We're into this a few minutes into it. So, and I think I'll start with Elk this time. We'll go kind of counterclockwise. If you guys want to do intros, really tell everybody who you are, what you do, any projects you're working on, share any links if you'd like, any channels or anything like that. You guys get the. You guys
I
get
am
the.
the Elk. I am just an aspiring YouTube creator. I don't have any real projects to announce yet. I'm a lifelong genre fiction fan. I've always liked comic books, cartoons, even mystery fiction, loved Sherlock Holmes, loved historical dramas, loved historical fiction like Shogun, um, uh, loved stuff like Planet of the Apes, which I watched this week, the cartoon series Return to the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, no, I'm a lifelong lover of genre fiction and and aspiring YouTubist, but nothing to announce yet.
Well, based on what you just said too, I think I know of an anime that might be right up your alley. There's an anime called Kingdom that's basically about how the Chinese warring states became a country. You
Oh
might
yeah,
want to check out.
yeah, definitely. I should. I know that there's a Romance of the Seven Kingdoms and Romance of the Three Kingdoms or something. I think is my imperfect grasp of Chinese history. I think there were two different periods where China fell apart and tried to reassemble itself. So yeah, no, definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in.
All right. All right. Well, Rick, we'll move on to you then. Because I think Elk is.
As my thing says, I'm Rick Piper of Cross Comics, and goes by you calling me Rick too. Sort of self-explanatory there. But I have a channel on YouTube. I have a website for Cross Comics, which is a comic company that I've created to do Christian comics, and I have produced 3 comics, and I'm presently working on a fourth Canadian Shield #3. So hopefully that will be done in the next couple months, or there'll be some major progress on it, anyways. And I hopefully by the end of the summer I will be starting up a Fund My Comic for it.
All right. Well, you were, and I. Well, did you want to talk? Did you want to talk about what you were telling me earlier? Like you'll be doing what you'll be doing like after the show tonight, or would you rather not?
Oh, that's nothing. Because of my hard drive getting munched, and I haven't yet been taking it in to get looked at to see whether I can get the data off of it. I'm having to go through it for editing the comics that I had, because I'm going with RJ to try and get Canadian Shield 1 and 2 and Snowdrift 1 in a collectic thing where people can get all 3 of those in one book on like Amazon or whatever. And it just needs to be, I guess, edited the best I can. Like I guess possibly wiping out what's in the bubbles or the caption boxes and re-putting, stuff in, like the dialogue in that's edited, so it's better than what it is. It's got the commas, the periods, and a little bit of a correction in dialogue. Now that'll probably change once I get if I am able to get to the original edited version um, back. But so hopefully in a month or less, I will have my stuff on Amazon or Walmart US, and Barnes and Nobles, places like that. You know, to make passive income out of my books. So
Well, today
that's
I have
basically what it is, and so I'm meeting up.
All right.
I'm
Well,
just
Rick.
meeting up with my editor after we're done this. Yeah. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to figure out if you were done or not, but yeah. So basically, this week, of course, Rick, you're going to be joining me on Friday as well as Monday and Wednesday. This Friday, we're going to be going over comics that went on sale in February 1940 from Fox Feature Syndicate, most notably Weird Comics Volume 1, Issue 1, and Fantastic Comics Volume 1, Issue 5. So I did discover something that and I kind of corrected it a little bit. Apparently, there was one more comic that came out around the early part of 40, which was Street Smith Publications. They had the Shadow comics. So we'll be looking at those on, finishing up on. Actually, I had to extend it a week and I already have the March coverage set up as well. The March coverage will start on June 21st. Will take us all the way through October. We'll basically be getting done with the March 1940 coverage in October.
Wow.
Because apparently in March there were a couple of comics that came into being as well. Ace magazines and a couple of companies, Ace magazines, with Surefire Comics, and Columbia Comics with Big Shot Comics, and some of the reprints from that were previously done in like feature funnies for quality moved over to those comics. So that's pretty much interesting. Huh. Yeah. So, anyways, we continue to wait for people to come in. Well, I know that you guys are both up in Canada, so I don't know. So, when you guys think of cartoons growing up, whether it be like the Warner Brothers stuff with like Bugs Bunny, Disney, or MGM with like Tom and Jerry, Universal with Woody Woodpecker, 20th Century Fox, Mighty Mouse, Paramount with like the famous studio stuff from like ranging from Popeye to like the Harvey Comics characters of like Casper the Friendly Ghost, Richie Rich, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Which cartoons would you guys which I guess set of cartoons would you say was your favorite growing up?
Oh, hard to say. There were so many, like good cartoons growing up, and I'm gonna try and stick it before, like the '80s or before, probably mid '80s or before, because '90s I was, more. I was, practically an adult at that point. Born in '73, so '93 I would have been, 20. So
93 was the year
although I
I
still watched
graduated high
cartoons.
school.
Yeah.
I fell out of cartoons in my 20s. I was always so nerdy. My cartoon selections were even so humiliating to acknowledge that I kept them from my middle school and high school friends. And in my 20s, I dropped them, although I sure kept up my love of like live action genre fiction. So like Blade movies and Batman and Robin movies, and but I dipped out of comic books in my 20s. And again, when I was in absolute love with comic books, I was such a nerd that even other comic book readers thought I liked nerdy stuff, like Richie Rich Millionaires and Richie Rich Billionaires comics, and Casper the Friendly Ghost, and was it Wendy the Witch or something? And so it was some of the, in Canada at least, there were Gold Key comics and some Sad Sack. I read there was a whole kind of comic. I remember liking them by the spine treatment that they had, and Richie Rich and a group of other characters had the same spinal treatment. And I was at the time, I thought, I didn't really know that, oh, well, that's just a publisher, publishing them that way or so on. Although I guess I knew it a little bit. Oh, and I loved Uncle Scrooge McDuck and the Beagle Boys. The Beagle Boys were the first sort of, what would you call it, like tie-in fiction that I liked, where I liked the Beagle Boys because they had like an English Beagle Boy was like their cousin from Great Britain. And like the Scottish Beagle Boy would have like be smoking a like corncob pipe and have a tartan and have a beret. And so the stuff I liked was so nerdy. Even the nerds kind of treated me with disdain.
Well, it's kind of funny you talk about like Gold Key and stuff like that because, of course, back in the golden age, Dell was the one who was doing a lot of the who was making the comic adaptations of a lot of the popular characters of the time. It's like Dell would be making like a lot of the like comic adaptations of all the different cartoons from Looney Tunes to Disney to Walter Land Productions to all that, and then eventually when Dell kind of went under, Gold Key took over and continued doing all that.
Yeah, I think I may, if I'm misremembering it wrong, and these are memories from like before I have coherent memories, just individual memories from age like 7, 8, 9, 10 to 12 or 14. But I think I remember, like I definitely remember Gold Key comics being a favorite. But I may remember, I may be misremembering that the publisher of some of the comics, I think in retrospect, changed. So it went from Gold Key to like Dell or something like
No,
that.
Dell was first, then Gold Key.
Oh, okay.
Gold Key succeeded Dell in that process.
So Gold Key was a licensor of these properties, or did they actually own them?
Well, they were a licensor. Dell was a licensor. Gold Key was a when it came to that stuff. When it came to like a lot of the adapted, because they didn't just license the cartoons. They also would license like classic TV shows too, and some cult classics. Like Gold Key specifically did actually do a comic adaptation of Dark Shadows, the goth soap from the gothic soap opera from the late '60s, Barnabas Collins.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
which you can watch on Tubi or Pluto if you want. If you care for that.
yeah. My cartoon selections were equally like even nerdy amongst nerds. So I loved Looney Tunes, and they're probably the cartoons I have the most memories of and can remember. The most one-liners, like thought I saw a putty cat and that sort of stuff, and Woody Woodpecker too, but Sylvester and Tweety especially, and the way they kept. So my cartoon selections were pretty nerdy. And then in high school, my group of friends were so disdainful of cartoons that I started to dip out of them, and I had dipped all the way out of them by the time I went to university in my 20s or late teens, early 20s. But then I got back to them sort of in the 2000s and started watching Batman the Animated Series and sort of retro, and Conan the Barbarian, which the Conan cartoon, although even one cartoon I always loved was the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, which was pretty nerdy too. I loved that one, even though it was a little more adult, I guess, than the other ones.
Well, the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, that was back in like the early '80s. I know that Peter Cullen, who would later go on to voice Optimus Prime in the Transformers, he would provide the voice for the villain in that Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. The one who was like with the red horns and dressed in black with a black and red horse.
Right. Daedalus or something like that, or I forget. He wasn't Asmodeus. They didn't go full devil, but they sort of implied devilish name for that guy. Yeah.
So I mean, there were some cool stuff I grew up on too, but let's see.
I was gonna say probably one of my favorite cartoons. Before the '80s, of course, I was into like Casper and all that. But I think one of the ones that I liked the most were like Superman, Transformers, GI Joe, Man. I think those were some of my favorites for sure. The Smurfs.
Same
I love
for me. Like a lot of those as well. Well, I hadn't even told you guys before that Super Friends is probably my all-time favorite, cartoon. That's what eventually got me into like looking more into DC, the comics of DC Comics. Later in life.
Yeah. And the one that I forgot.
As a kid, and then the DCAU throughout the '90s and 2000s.
Also, a couple others would be the original Spider-Man cartoon, and of course Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yeah. When you say the original one, are you talking about the one in the '60s, the one with the song?
Yeah.
1967 from Grant Way Lawrence animation. It was just simply called Spider-Man. The year before that, they did the Marvel superheroes, where they had segments with Captain America, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man,
Yeah.
Thor, and
Well,
Namor.
but unfortunately, those didn't become as popular as Spider-Man. That Spider-Man cartoon. The company actually that made that Spider-Man cartoon made another uh, um, cartoon that Al probably would have heard of, but I don't think you would have, Mike. Rocket Robin Hood.
Oh yeah, totally.
I've
Yeah, no, I
heard of
was a
it. I've
Rocket
never
Robin
watched
Hood
it, but
fan.
I've heard of
Yeah.
that. I've heard of it
Yeah, the
before.
same people. Okay, but yeah, it was pretty good too. I like that, as well. It was the same people, I believe, that made the Spider-Man cartoon because the stylization was the same and all that. And in fact, I think they didn't have a crossover episode, but the one episode where the fifth dimension or whatever that Spider-Man went to, I think Rocket Robin Hood had an episode with the fifth dimension as well. So if I
Okay, yeah,
remember
no,
right.
I was totally a Rocket Robin Hood fan. I can vaguely, yeah. Again, I watched these so early in my life, and my memory has just turned into a sieve in the last 10 years. That stuff I used to remember, I can just no longer remember my childhood coherently. I think that's a sign that I'm getting ready to die or something. But it's, yeah, it's definitely. Uh, it's definitely something that's happening in my memory. So, but I kept up with all my sort of genre fiction. Like I think it was pretty soon when the Jeremy Brett made a whole series after series of Sherlock Holmes stories, live action that they made. I think for the BBC, but it could have been for one of the other London, other British television shows. But so I kept up fairly nerdy stuff, but yeah, not the actual cartoons in my 20s. It wasn't until my 30s when I started to backdate the Batman series and that sort of stuff.
Another good little cartoon that it was a short. I think it was Simon and the Land of Make Believe or Numbers or whatever. I forget. It had little. They're like 5 minute
Was that the
things,
I
and
Am
it's just
Simple
like
Simon one? Was there a tune I Am
I'm not
Simple
sure.
Simon?
No, well, my name is Simon,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
things I draw come true.
yeah.
He drawing this fence, and then there was the land, like a land that came from him drawing on this, fence. It's like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
really
well,
neat.
speaking of some interesting oddities from the late '70s, something I came across a couple weeks ago, just looking around YouTube and stuff like that. So I guess, and now YouTube being Canadian would have known this, but I guess in the late maybe somewhere between '78 and '81, I guess there was a Canadian math show. It was similar in the vein of PBS's Square One TV here in the States in the late '80s. It was called Math Makers. It was, I guess, a children's show. Tim's joined us. Hey, Tim.
Oh, yeah, how's it going?
All right, we're just
Hey, Jim.
we're reminiscing on classic cartoons and kids shows and all that. I was just telling them about, kind of a thing I saw on YouTube
Yeah.
recently about Math Makers, which was, guess, an earlier version of Square One TV.
I have
You know,
no
up
idea
in
what any of
Canada.
that is.
Huh?
I have no idea what any of that is.
Square One TV was a PBS children's show that was basically where it was the idea was they were promoting math, basically learning math,
Yeah, well,
basically.
I don't know anything about that. I think at a at a young age, it was either Muppets or Sesame Street, but I don't really remember. So
Yeah, it was probably before your time.
probably because
Well,
it sounds.
You young.
Math Makers definitely was probably I think before your time. I mean, I would have been like maybe no more than 5 when it was out. So,
Uh,
um,
Yeah, well,
but
well,
I can't remember it either.
here's a question for you. What's worse? Companies that make bad Star Wars or Marvel or what stories, or the people who continue to complain about the same thing every year, even though the companies show no regard for giving a rat's ass. They just don't care, right? So I mean, I tuned into the show where they were just bitching and bitching about Star Wars, and it's like, this is stupid. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of bad stories out there. I mean, I would say some of the ideas that Disney has come up with is okay. I think people like, I don't know, I think people like just kind of like hate on something, but it's just like, is it really worth several hours of complaining about,
I've thought about that actually a fair amount, Tim, and I am still of a split mind when it comes to that. Like, I get the joke, like Star Wars is dead, MCU, that sort of meme.
Yeah.
I think about it as something like racism, because that's what it is. I'm not really complaining about Star Wars because, the quality of the writing is arbitrarily low, or the people don't understand the basics of story, although in most cases that is. It's actual overt anti-white, anti-male, anti-American, anti-European, anti-North American, sexist racism. And that's, so when I think about it in those terms, I do see it as, well, no, never give up until it's like driven from your screen, until the people who wrote the stuff are embarrassed. And in that way, I do see a value.
But they're not, though. They show no signs of giving a rat's ass.
Yeah, but again, that's kind of like the, dare I say it, it's like the civil rights movement. People were complaining about anti-Black racism for like 100 years or before anything was ever done about it. And had people given up, it never would have changed. So, and again, that's a dramatic, actually, I don't think it's that dramatic, because again, white males are discriminated. They use this same justification that they use to write bad Star Wars as they use to exclude white males from universities, as they used to exclude white males from boards of companies. The same justification is used to exclude men from even simple promotions on the simple factory floor, like working class jobs, or even at Starbucks. They use the same justification as they use to write bad Star Wars. So the white men are evil, white men are systemically racist, white men have all these magical privileges that society just shits on your plate because you're born white. So when I think of it in those terms, I think, like, never quit complaining about it till the problem goes away. So like the Supreme Court ruled against affirmative action. But on the other hand, the idea that, listening to a 3-hour show, and there are guys who've made like hundreds of dollars an hour.
Why didn't they already kind of do away in some states with affirmative action?
Well,
actually, as I understand it, affirmative action was struck down.
That's what I understand too.
Yeah, some of it was. But that's enmeshed in the culture. It's going to take more than one or two Supreme Court cases to get rid of it. But it's getting hit.
Well, I was going to say, with regards to what Timothy was talking about, I can see complaining a little bit, but making your voice heard a little bit. But a 3-hour stream about it could be a little overkill. Because
the unfortunate thing about that, guys, is that there are a number of YouTube creators that is their show, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it almost comes off like therapy for over the hill nerds. That's what it kind of comes off as.
I mean, even the guys that started out as like more like genuinely, like, they wanted to cover comics and stuff, have gravitated more towards, let's just dump on everything,
Well, I mean, like, it's kind of like
that's kind of what Ethan's kind of done to an extent.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like geeks and gamers. That after a while, you're like, okay, I get it. You don't like anything that's coming out now. And so I never really have a. I mean, I'm still subscribed to their channel, but I never watch anything they do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I cover it as news items, but I don't sit there and dwell on it. I think that's one of the differences
Yeah.
between me and them is that, first off, because I want to try to make things more positive. That's why I do things like the historical comic retrospect on Friday nights, where we, go back and look at old comics. So those comics that really led to a lot of people getting in, whether or not you like them or hate them, or you have, you have criticisms of it. Those are the comics that led to the next generation getting into comics, and those comics led to the next generation to get into comics. So I mean,
Well, it's kind of like instead of complaining about them, make your own stuff. That's I think that's way better than just sitting around complaining about, oh, the newest Marvel movie is terrible.
Well, some of these people are making their own stuff. Like
me.
Ethan's obviously making his own stuff.
Yeah.
Yellow Flash is making his own stuff.
Exactly.
He's made his own stuff. Some of these guys are actually making their own stuff. But
for sure, of course, some of them are. I think the other thing is, it's easy to poo-poo on stuff too, and too often, a bunch of these, things, shows or whatever, we've heard about that, oh, something's going to be in it, and, we should avoid watching it or whatever. I've watched it, either in theaters, and it wasn't as bad as what, people were went on about, before it even aired and anybody got to watch it.
Well, that's another thing is they complain about it before it even hit the airways.
I don't actually, that I disagree with. I completely disagree that it's easy to poo-poo on this stuff that Disney's coming out. It might be easy for us because we're on basically an unlooked at corner of the internet. But if you have any kind of audience, if you're any kind of actor, if you're any kind of broadcaster, if you're any kind of personality, if you're any kind of even minor D-list celebrity in North America, and you come out saying Star Wars is shitty because it's sexist and racist and shits on white males, that's a career-ending move for you. I don't think it's easy at all to say it. And that's why I think there's like channels like Trigonometry.
That's not exactly what I meant.
To do the shitting for those who can't.
That's not exactly what I meant, Al. If you're a celebrity or whatever, it can be could possibly be career ending to go and poo-poo on this stuff. Obviously, because of what Hollywood has become. But I mean, just as general people like us, we can
average
go out
Joes.
and we can average Joes. It's easy to, and I really mean by poo-poo on it. It's just easy to go and find something wrong with it, nitpick it. Now, whether some people are nitpicking, some people aren't. Some people have legitimate criticism.
Think it's nitpicking. Again, I'm like, this is like a tidal wave of anti-white male racism. That's
also, we've got another slight problem in our society too that's feeding into a lot of this culture. We've got what I call what I tended to call the looky-loo culture. We have a culture where why like Tug became very popular, why Flash is popular, why some of these guys are popular, because we got this looky-loo culture who, if they were driving on a freeway and they were coming upon an accident, they would be sitting there like just staring out like this, gawking at the carnage, and just thanking the Lord above that they're not in it, and just kind of reveling in other people's misery as they're just driving along, going about their business. It's like, how many times do you need to hear about Amber Heard unloading in her bed? Okay.
Well, how many times do I hear about racism?
Like 5 years of it, right?
I
mean, they made Birth of a Nation 110 or 115 years ago now. So has Birth of a Nation stopped being racist? Have people stopped complaining about Birth of a Nation? Have people stopped complaining that Woodrow Wilson from 110 years ago actually filmed Birth of a Nation in the White House before he reintroduced federal
I've never even heard
discrimination?
of Birth of a
I
Nation.
mean, it's the first it's actually the first blockbuster quote Hollywood movie, and it features the Ku Klux Klan as heroes. And Woodrow Wilson filmed it in the White House in I think 1915 or something like that, 1916. And he also reintroduced
Whoops.
segregation in federal workplaces between white and black employees. So it's, I mean, when do you stop complaining about racism? When have black people stopped complaining about racism? When, you know, and so that, and again, that's where I'm split. I have to admit, I don't listen to Friday Night Tights anymore, and I don't listen to the As show or whatever. But that's not to say I wish they would stop in my selfish way, because just because I don't want to listen to people complaining about racism anymore doesn't mean I want people to stop complaining about racism.
Well, I mean, you can't
I would
compare
disagree
bad
even
entertainment
about
with
celebrities.
racism.
Like I would say, even if we were in jobs, if the human resources department, if I had a job with a proper human resources department, like I have had a couple of times in my life, had they heard me daring to say that Star Wars was racism or that we were swimming in anti-white racism, that would be a career limiting move, as we used to call them, CLMs, if not a career ending move. I'd never get another promotion. And neither would any of us if a human resources department at a company that we worked at heard the kind of comments we make. That would be the end of our promotions, at least, if not our firing.
Well, the thing is too is that there is a difference between giving like legitimate criticism and dwelling on the matter at hand. I mean,
If you're talking about all the
there are times when I'll have some fun with stuff. Well, I'll have some like back when the whole thing with the Cowboy Bebop movie was out, like over a year ago, right? And everybody was kind of panning that. You know, I took a few shots at Daniela Pineda because she was sitting there. You know, she was playing Faye Valentine in the live action. Now, yeah, was it? No, it wasn't. It wasn't Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, it was Cowboy Bebop. Sorry, but you know, basically the idea was that in the anime and in the manga and anime, Faye Valentine was a femme fatale. She was, you know, that was how her character. But when they went with the live action route, they were saying, well, if you want that character, you're sexist, you're this, that, and the next thing, and it's kind of funny because she's trying to push the whole idea, plus size rules kind of thing, and yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the nice skinny body that you all want. And then it came out that there was I guess there was a picture of her somewhere, kind of in doggy style.
Have you pointed out anything like that? And if you had a job with the human resources department, that would have been the end of your chances of promotion. They'd think that you're liable to create a hostile workplace environment, which companies in North America, in Canada, thanks to American rulings, are legally obligated to provide a non-hostile work environment. So if they ever heard us,
I haven't worked since I was like 32. Okay, I haven't worked since I was 32 when they finally put me on disability. Okay, because they saw I just had too many issues there, where I really couldn't work. It's not that I have one big obvious disability; it's that I have a bunch of them that in their combined effect create the greater disability. But I know I don't see myself going back into the workforce anyways.
Well, I think the main issue is they load up the okay. They load up the entertainment. It's okay. They load up their entertainment with with kind of leftist agendas. Instead of like social issues being in the background and the stories in front of you, they flipped it around to where the story is not so important, but their lefty agenda is.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden this character is this skin tone because that's because they get tax breaks for being have diverse characters and pushing certain agendas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, and we've seen that. Like I saw that with the when they were showing the My Adventures of Superman series on Toonami. I was seeing that because they turned now. Granted, from what I had heard afterwards too, I guess they did it in the live action where they turned Jimmy Olsen from white to black, basically. Um,
Well, another thing is we do kind of overblow things. Like there was a female stormtrooper in the Ben Kenobi series, and I didn't think I saw the scene. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. The only thing that bothered me is that when she told him to get on the ground, he got on the ground with the blaster still in his hand instead of her saying, "Drop the blaster, kick it over to me, get on the ground." You know how he got on the ground with the weapon still in his hand. That's the only thing that bothered me.
Well,
Yeah. But
there is
at that point,
like bad writing as well, and propaganda. I think propaganda leads to bad writing, and I think diversity hiring in rooms, in all aspects of life, leads to bad outcomes. Because if you're just hired again because of like Vita Ayala, if you're hired because you're autistic, lesbian, and binary, um, that's that puts you in such a narrow pool that it doesn't matter how good you are actually at writing comic books, because there's only a tiny number of people who can meet those definitions or those characteristics. So yeah, I mean, so there's bad writing and there's bad writing in all aspects of our entertainment too, layered on top of the just overt anti-white racism that is the major reason for it.
Let me just slightly interrupt you there for a quick moment, Elk. So Matt Metal saying, "Hey y'all, not feeling up to being on air this evening for reasons that are a bit TMI for polite company." Well, I hear that because I did have an idea for something I wanted to ask you or something I want to talk with you about here, but I guess maybe we can still talk about it. You can talk about it from chat once we get through this portion. But well, I hope you feel better soon. And
I
then
mean,
Tim kind of replied, I guess. But
yeah.
yeah. So and then
well, I mean, if you write a story in one way or the other, you are kind of putting your own little spin on how you see things into your story. So in that way is kind of propagandist in a sense. Like the Colton and the Melvin stories is kind of how I see the left in some cases. You know, it's
Yeah.
the point is it's that when they make it blatantly obvious, then it's not so entertaining, is it?
Well, there's also such a thing as good propaganda. I mean, like two of the most propagandistic films in history, Olympia and what's the other Nuremberg rally movie by the horrid German woman who lived to be like 108 or something. But her Olympia, her Olympia reset the way the Olympics are organized until this very day. The changes made in the sort of 1930s Olympics for Hitler that Leni Riefenstahl encouraged, the filming of national flags and having podiums with the athletes with their national flags being raised over top of the podium at medal award ceremonies. Most of that was Leni Riefenstahl ideas, and they've been kept a century later all around the world. And the Nuremberg rally movie gosh, I can't believe I don't know. It was about Hitler's Nuremberg rally. I think it was even before he became chancellor, and it's a classic. It redid how all sorts of political movies and documentaries are made until this day as well. And so there's good propaganda. It's just when you're hiring someone, if Leni Riefenstahl, well, if Leni Riefenstahl, they only wanted someone who was a gay, non-binary, autistic communist, chances are Leni Riefenstahl would have dropped out of those categories and she wouldn't have been selected. And we would have gotten someone with a smaller skill set making terrible films that would have been long forgotten. Like Vita Ayala with comic books. She's never going to be remembered. She's no good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were a lot of, in terms of propaganda cartoons, there were a lot of interesting ones back in the 40s there that all the different studios did. Some of them got banned because they were deemed rate. I mean, nowadays when there are some cartoons that I'll watch on MeTV or what have you, and they'll put the disclaimer up about the whole idea. Well, we're putting this up even though there are some issues with it. And it's funny because when I watch these, every time I see that, like the few times I've seen that happen where they put that disclaimer up before that particular cartoon, I didn't see anything in there that could have been anywhere remotely considered there was one example that really comes to mind is there's this one where Olive Oil is running a gas station, and Popeye and Bluto are on leave, and so they come to try to help her with her gas station, and the Admiral comes up with his golden car, right? His golden fancy car of the time, right? And so he wants her to fill up the air and the tires and the water and all that. And it's like,
give them the full service.
yeah, I mean, but there was nothing in that cartoon that I saw that, I mean, I know in other cartoons there's been certain situations like how things have been blown up, to make it look like somebody's doing blackface or whatever. And I've seen that, but that's not, I wouldn't even, now that I can see the people getting offended by, but still.
You know what it is probably for that one that you said about Olive Oil? It's two guys were trying to help her run a gas station.
So, Triumph of the Will, one of the most copied documentary styles of all time. And then Metal saying, a lot of propagandist art in the past still ended up being good art despite the message. Most of it wasn't, but making sure the artist was good wasn't often the concern. And in Elk, Yes Metal, there is such a thing as well written or created propaganda. It just most often is. Yeah, but anyway,
there's a movie in the top list of greatest movies of all time that in Hollywood, and one of them is a Nazi propaganda film.
It's Triumph of the Will. That's the one I was trying to think of about the Nuremberg.
Oh, yeah.
Triumph of the Will by Leni Riefenstahl. It's one of the most. It's kind of like the Rosebud of the documentary style, or the it's.
But isn't it a Nazi propaganda film?
Citizen Kane. Oh yeah, no, it's about Hitler's Nuremberg rally of the Nazis. And they show the different stormtroopers from every little town and every little neighborhood in Germany all showed up with their swastika flags, and they would all dip their flags and Hitler would touch them or they'd all walk by the bloody flag from the beer hall putsch, where some early Nazis, I think 14 or something, were gunned down by police at the beer hall putsch in Munich. And they had the flag there dipped in the blood of the Nazis who had died. And thousands of people fought for the honor to come up and touch the flag. And so, yeah, no, and they arranged the airline or the anti-aircraft lights. They lined those around the outskirts of the field that the rally was held at, so that it looked like a giant cathedral, because the air searchlights shone up in pillars along the sides of the rally. So no, it's it's like the Citizen Kane of documentary films. It's one of the most copied styles and has one of the most many elements copied into modern documentaries. But it was complete, utter propaganda. Like it was just about how great Hitler was.
It's kind of ironic. It's kind of ironic in a sense if you think about it, because like Hollywood's now, the left is very anti-Nazi this, anti-Nazi that, and one of their most coveted films is a Nazi film.
Yeah. It's the same with Olympia too. Like people don't understand how much the way that we view the Olympics now as an opening scene. Like I think it was Leni Riefenstahl who came up with the idea that all the athletes should parade in the stadium under the banners of their national flags. Pretty sure that was Leni Riefenstahl so she could film it, or it was the other Nazi organizers of was it 36 Olympics? So it was the Nazis, either Leni herself or another Nazi, who came up with that idea. And again, the idea of having the podium first, second, third, with the flags rising above the winners and the national anthems playing, that was a Leni Riefenstahl shot that she wanted, and we use that to the Olympics to this day. And it's again one of the most influential documentaries ever.
Metal has something to say here. Hitler was also obsessed with art, and it showed through in the aesthetic and presentation of the entire movement. So now, before we continue, I did want to give Tim a chance to do it. I know we got right into the conversation when he came in. I want to give Tim a chance to do an intro if he'd like. Basically tell everybody who he is, share any links, promote any projects. You get the shtick.
Yes, Melvin 1 and 2 special editions on Walmart, Amazon, and Barnes and Noble, and I am trying to get all the books for Melvin 3 out there, so I can get Melvin 3 special edition going. So,
all right. Rick, is that you with that phone ringing?
No, not me.
Oh, sorry, that was me.
Yeah, I keep
bells.
hearing like a phone ringing there. I thought it might have been
like an old phone.
Yeah.
I know. I started checking my phone, but I know it's not my phone ringing.
So, how you liking your new digs?
Me, it's all right. I'll be glad when I have a full-time job and in my own place and have all my crap.
I mean, isn't it kind of nice that seems like kind of like a cozy little trailer.
Yeah, it's definitely cozy.
We're actually in a tent trailer in Sable Beach, which is just a couple miles away from where Rick is right now. I love being in a tent trailer for weeks at a time in Sable Beach. It's not so bad.
Huh.
Yeah, it's not so bad, especially when you know you could go back to your home with all your crap. But this is nice. I'm far enough away from my dad's house that I'm getting internet, but and I can go in there, use the washroom and all that because the water's not hooked up here. But like I've got a microwave that doesn't work properly, but I've also got a toaster oven that I can cook some stuff in.
The internet that goes out every now and again too.
Yeah. But at least I have internet. I could be out here and not have internet at all, right?
Right. Yeah.
I've got a bed. I've got a little bit of stuff for storage in here, not a great amount. Obviously, come November, December, probably even October, I don't really want to be in here.
So how have you gotten your books with RJ put up yet?
What was that?
The Canadian Shield books. You're gonna have them go through RJ, right? How's that going?
Okay. Unfortunately, because of the net, you're breaking up on my end.
Oh, I said the Canadian Shield books going through Critical Blast. Are you still working on that?
Oh, am I still working on the comic book stuff with RJ?
Yes.
Yeah, I am. I'm actually going through editing with Metal. We should be
Nice.
meeting after we're done here tonight, and getting Canadian Shield done, and maybe Snowdrift. So I can just hand those scripts to RJ to give to what's his name,
George.
uh, George, so he can read through it
Jungle.
and change what needs to be changed. And that's
Nice.
basically he's just gonna probably have to empty out bubbles, thought bubbles or whatever type of bubbles or caption stuff,
Yep.
and put in the new dialogue or change it if it needs to be changed.
Then you can promote the hell out of it.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
because the sales he'll send it to you via PayPal every with the first 2 weeks of every month. So
Yeah.
so I mean I'm looking at that happening pretty soon. Yep. So
Yeah. But
and
that's definitely good that you're.
yeah, yeah. I've had a pretty big month, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, cool.
Hey guys, I want to ask because I know I normally go about 2 hours here, but I know that Rick, you and Metal have stuff you guys want to get done, and even I'm feeling a little drained a little bit.
Gonna cut it short.
I was wondering if you guys wanted to cut it off. We're just past the hour here. Shall we? You guys feel like just finishing up and then just finish wrapping up the show early tonight?
Sure, why not?
It's up to you, Mike. I can go till the 10, or I can go till now. I'm not sure whether Metal will be available. I'm pretty sure he'd be available to still meet up this earlier because we know you usually around 10. We just said after you were done, so
yeah,
it doesn't matter for me either way.
I just basically there was something I was thinking about wanting to discuss, particularly with you and Metal, because you guys are two other YouTubers. But with him not feeling like coming in tonight, I figured okay, we could maybe wait on that for next week or something like that. And I wasn't sure if there was much else.
He has the link. Maybe after we're off the air, he might come in. If you cut it short, Rick is gonna have to give me at least half an hour of recovery time before I can help him. Oh, yeah, that's no problem, Metal.
All right. Yeah, I just because I was just thinking about something. I guess I can kind of give you at least one of the things I was thinking about was wanting to talk a little bit about more with you and Metal, and it wasn't something we could have talked privately because it was something we could have talked publicly rather, just simply I was just thinking about something recently where as YouTube creators we tend to wear many different hats, right? We're producers.
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of what I was wanting to talk a little bit about, but I want to wait till Metal is actually here with us to, and he can participate, because you and I are the ones who are the actual YouTubers. I know Elk is looking to get started soon on that, and Tim's just doing his own thing. So, So, but as I said, I just felt like it might be a good time to just wrap things up a little early tonight. Just as we're kind of down to the end of the month anyway. So, are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, like I said, it's your show, so whichever,
All right.
If we cut it
All
short,
right.
I'm fine. If we go the full 2 hours, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Or
All
somewhere
right.
in
Well, I
between.
can go do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do the this day in each history, and then we will wrap up and give everybody a chance to um, do an outro here. Let me just remind myself a few things here. 28.99.
Okay.
2009.
I'll just say tomato. Okay, you say half an hour. We'll just keep it at 10 then after.
2014. 2014.
And just use the link that we used last night for StreamYard.
All right. So with that, today being Sunday, April the 28th, 2024, why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. So first off, let me just go back in. All right. All right. So going back to yesterday, going back 10 years ago yesterday. So first off, on yesterday's date 10 years ago, couple of things happened in the realm of animation. As on yesterday's date 10 years ago today, the Simpson episode What to Expect When Bart's Expecting, his first broadcast, in which the couch gag was animated by Michael Soka. Also, 10 years ago today was the 35th anniversary of Nickelodeon. So those two things happened in the realm of animation, in the world of animation, 10 years ago yesterday. So the Simpsons episode, What to Expect When Bart's Expecting, first broadcast, and Nickelodeon celebrating its 35th anniversary. So with that, getting ready to move on to the next piece of Nietzsche history. And 2014 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. And
Hopefully it
also
doesn't
on
hurt too much hitting it twice.
and also on this date in 2014, date in 2014, the Doga Kobo series, the second season of the Doga Kobo series, Lovely Movie, Lovely Muiko, premiered on Japanese television on this date, on yesterday's date, rather, 10 years ago. So 10 years ago yesterday, the Doga Kobio's and season 2 of the Doga Kobio's anime series, Lovely Movie, Lovely Muiko or Muko, premiered on Japanese television on yesterday's date. Now moving on to today's date, 2009. On today's date, 25 years ago today. On this date, 25 years ago today, the first issue of Flinch from DC's Vertigo imprint went on sale on this date back in 1999. It looked like it was some kind of maybe horror anthology. It sold for $250 with 32 pages. What was that, Rick?
I was going to say, I wonder if anybody flinched reading it.
Rick with the puns. On this date, 25 years ago today, the first issue of Flinch from DC's Vertigo imprint went on sale on today's date, 25 years ago today.
I swear I've seen that cover somewhere before.
Well, yeah, I'll pull it up again if you want, and you can.
No, it's good. I just every time I see it, I just like I've seen that before. I can't remember where though.
Well, maybe you
Probably
saw it back
on that
then,
comic
so
somewhere.
I mean, what year did it come out?
99.
Yeah, that's
25
probably
years ago.
is it
25
either
years.
probably in Cliff's Comic World or Golden Age Comics in Seattle. Then I probably saw it. That's probably where I saw it.
All right. So with that, and finally on this date in 2009 was the passing of WWE Hall of Famer Playboy Buddy Rose. Born Paul Perchman, Rhodes of course, Rhodes passed away at the age of 56 from, I believe it was complications of diabetes. Of course, most fans remember him as an enhancement talent with the WWE in the early 90s, in the early 90s. But he actually got his name recognition a lot from the Pacific Northwest territory. He'd wrestle throughout the Pacific Northwest of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. Of course, he had one of Roddy Piper's first feuds was with him. First major feuds was with Buddy Rose in like I believe 1980. So
Yeah, he was born the
15 years
same year
ago
as my
today.
mom, 1952.
Yeah. So 15 years ago today, Playboy Buddy Rose passed away at the age of 56. He's also a former AWA World Tag Team Champion. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And before we head out, of course, we'll start with Tim. We'll go counterclockwise again.
Oh boy.
And if you guys want to do an outro, go for it. So we'll start with Tim, go counterclockwise to Rick, and then to Elk. And then I'll wrap things up.
All right. Tim, creator of Melvin, issues 1 and 2, special edition, available at Walmart, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Get it. Good. Great.
All right, Rick, you're up.
Melvin.
No,
I
that's
think
my
everybody
line.
here knows who I am.
All right.
We're gonna smell the men.
Uh-huh.
But anyways,
You nasty.
yeah. You're the guy that's got the character that wants to smell men.
No.
Anyway. Oh, you want to smell men. Anyway.
God.
Nasty.
Yes, it is, Tim, that you want to smell men.
Oh boy. Rick, did you want to do an outro or no?
Trying to. Just go. Most everybody, I think everybody here knows me. Go check me out here, Cross Comics, and like, share, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff here, and over on my channel. And watch as much as you can. Get my time up.
All right. All right. Well, Elk, it's your turn.
Well, thank you everybody for listening to me ranting, and it was pleasant to listen to your rants as well. And yeah, I got nothing to sell to nobody right now, but thank you for inviting me on the show. Have a good night.
All right. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope everybody has a good weekend. And we'll be back here, of course, tomorrow with the Mikestand Needs News. I'll have Rick on, and then I'll have Rick on Monday and Wednesday this week, and Friday, because he'll be here when we go over the comics that went on sale from February 1940 from Fox Feature Syndicate. And then, of course, I believe Tim will be joining me for Tuesday and Thursday.
Yes.
For Needs News coverage, and particularly on Thursday with the Indie Comic Showcase. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.